Hey guys, let me know if I am live. I am trying to get myself situated here. Let's see. I'm gonna fix my camera here. Okay. Well, how are you doing, Mike? How are you doing, Catherine? I'm gonna lower this camera down a little bit. Let's see. Maybe that's a little bit better, but I feel like I'm at an angle. All right. I know, Mike, I'm a minute late. I apologize. Looks like Catherine's trying to organize her grow room, but I'm happy you can sit and listen. Hi, Melinda. How are you? Farm All Fanatic. How is everyone tonight? Oh my gosh. London Worms and Gardens. How are you? Unseasonably mild London, UK. What's the temperature like there? Hi, Liata. You're new. How long have you been worm farming? What do you do? What types of worms do you raise? All right, let's see. I'm doing good enough as well, Farmal. Hope everything is okay. I'm honored that London Worms and Gardens was able to make it. He was one of the first channels to ever shout me out. He's got an awesome channel. If you guys want to go over and check his channel out, please be sure to do that. And if you're in here and you haven't done already, can you please go over and click the like button for me? Helps people find my live stream, my channel. Hi, Peter. Oh, Melinda, the grandson is there with you. He's going to be your little co-pilot. That's awesome. Oh, Mickey, hello, how are you? How is everything tonight? A lot of people saying hi to each other. I appreciate that. Be sure to check out some of these channels, see what you think. Melinda, tell Ace I said hello. It's actually unseasonably comfortable here as well, London Worms and Gardens. I mean, it's like in the 40s Fahrenheit, but it was like 60 yesterday, but now they're calling for like snow and ice later this week. I don't know. The weather here is crazy. Liata has red wigglers. You have a worm test kitchen, and you're trying different bedding and feedings. You're looking for the best way to do that. If you haven't already, go over and check out some of my playlists. I show all sorts of foods that I feed, different types of systems I run. Maybe that will be helpful to you in some way, so let me know. Catherine says it hasn't gotten much above 25. That's funny because you're not that far north of me. But it's been relatively comfortable today. Mickey, what type of video do you have coming out tomorrow? The sun was gorgeous today. Yes, Catherine. You know me, I work nights, so I didn't get up very early, but I did catch the sunset, and it was a very pretty day. Yeah, it is a bit cold to be outside. I wouldn't really want to be outside either in this type of weather, but where we were, it was comfortable. Ooh, Mickey's has an unboxing video coming out tomorrow. That's exciting. I don't know if I've ever done an unboxing video. I mean, I have on some of my worm systems, but not very often. Your worms are loving it, I guess you're saying, in the weather outside being so mild. I need to see your new video. I haven't gotten a chance to watch it, London Worms, with the tower system you're running outside. I'd love to see how you do with it, because I'm still struggling with mine 2 years, 3 years later. Mickey, you're right. I do unboxings every single video. In a sense, yes, I do. You're right. You are right. So, let's see. What types of experiments is everyone running right now? Anything new in the works? What are your garden plans coming up? I'm definitely thinking about how I'm going to adjust my garden, my raised bed this year to try to have a little bit more success. Leota says, I'm especially interested in ways of cast harvesting. I want to save eggs and worms for future bins, I think you mean. Yeah, the eggshells are excellent as a grit source for the worms. Worms do need grit for their gizzard, and so I save all of my eggshells. I've got bags and bags in my closet, and then I usually, every couple of months, I'll sit and I'll grind them all up and put them into a container to use in the worm bin. But harvesting methods right now, Leota, I'm doing the harvesting just using an old Tupperware container that had kind of gotten worn out, and I just drilled a few holes in the bottom, and it seems to be working quite well. Danelle, hello. Danelle was kind enough to send me an email yesterday, and we've been chatting a little bit. I'd love to hear more about what you're doing, Danelle, what your plans are. Casually Extreme Outdoors, how are you? I believe you're in Pennsylvania as well. Lenora's here. Gosh, a lot of you guys have been able to join me. I appreciate that very much. I'm eagerly awaiting the visit from my parents. They said they were going to hop on and watch my live stream. I don't think they've ever seen me live. Gabrielle, hello. E-Waste Mike. Nice to see you all. Derek from France. What's the weather like in France, Derek? So I was looking at an old article that I had written on my blog on the website, and I was looking at some statistics on the waste problem in America. And let's see, I want to pop over and read a few statistics for you. So some of the statistics that were really shocking to me is that 30 to 40% of our food supply ends up in the landfill as garbage. There's not widespread recycling or composting programs, and so tons of our food that could be composted and used in other ways ends up being wasted, which is really, really a shame because, as we can see, there's a huge benefit to composting our food scraps. If you think if each of us could keep 2 pounds of, food waste out of the landfill every week, okay? So I feed much more than that, but say just 2 pounds, and what, there's 20 of us in here now, that would be, what, over 2 tons in a year. Or I'm sorry, a ton. That would be a ton in a year, which, I mean, if you think about that, that's a car. That's the size of a car. And that's only if we're doing it relatively, small scale. London Worms and Garden says his tower system has been neglected for 4 months. Well, that's okay. I've had some bins that I'm intentionally neglecting to see how they do. But as you know, the worms are very resilient. Oh, and you're going to do a cocoon experiment using a stressed and an unstressed bin. Yeah, I hear that bins that kind of feel like something traumatic is going to happen, if an extreme temperature is going to come, that the worms will, what's the word, quickly reproduce to try to save their offspring. So London Worms and Garden says he's going to basically how to make your own worm in for free. I love the idea. I can't wait to watch it. Hello, Pasutivarat. Danelle bought a heavy-duty paper shredder today to handle cardboard for bedding. We'll have new worm homes soon, I hope, and less trash to put into the recycling. And that's what I love too. It's really, really nice to keep a lot of that stuff out. Looks like Mickey and Mike in here are having a little conversation. I think I must have missed it, but I'm sure they're having a good time. Mike is great in our community. He goes to all sorts of live streams, comments on videos. Mickey has an awesome channel. Like I said, London Worms and Gardens. There's so many great channels in here. My Hillside Garden. Check some of them out. See what you think. And if you're in here, there's 19 of you. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button for me. Rochelle, we need to be replenishing our soil also. And that's exactly right. That's kind of the sad thing, is that we're wasting so much when our soil, our yards, our gardens, they need it so much. You think of the big agricultural companies and what they do and how they have to fertilize with these products that are harmful to our health, you know, and that's what's so sad. There have been some studies where they've used just castings to amend the soil on some big agricultural farms, and the difference is night and day. The problem is having enough of it and teaching people how it works so that more people can implement this. Hello, Eric. Hello, Nicholas. Oh, that's my brother. Hi, Nick. I didn't notice you didn't have a picture. Welcome, Nick. How are you today? Mike says he had a terrible worm question, but he couldn't get them down to pass PG-13. Well, you could always send me an email. Yes, Mickey Mike is great. And Rochelle, I'm totally with you. We need to replenish our soils. They've tested a lot of soils across the country, and they're in absolutely terrible shape. They're literally devoid of any sort of life. And as we know, the microbial life is really what keeps our soil healthy. So it's sad to see that these lands that grow all of our food are actually completely devoid of anything healthy for us. They're just loaded down with fertilizers. You know, they use tons and tons of chemicals to keep pests away and things like that. Mike says both mics are pretty awesome. Yes, there's quite a few mics in this community and they're all great. Manuel says Florida has sandy soil. Oh, my brother could tell you all about that. Nick, I miss you too. I think I'm going to stop by and visit you guys on Thursday. But yeah, Manuel, my brother lived down in Florida for a while. London Worms is saying a recent survey here showed about 20% of farmland had no worms. Exactly, and it's farmland. You know, this is land that is being used to grow not only vegetables and fruits, but some of them, they raise animals themselves. And if they don't know how to utilize their own waste, I mean, think about it. If we're farming and we don't farm the entire plant, we take the fruits. So all of that additional garden waste could go back to that soil, to that land, and give us, you know, much healthier soil that would have worms, that would have microbial life and the like fungal ecosystem that's actually really important for our plants. Catherine says, when I took over my dad's Zone 7 garden, we had months of hot conversations about rototilling and how bad it was for the soil. Exactly. I learned a lot about that in North Carolina at the vermiculture conference. Just how, you know, our soil web, it's a web, and it's built and structured by all these microorganisms and the fungi and all of that stuff. And then we go in and we till it, and we've really destroyed a lot of what had already been built up that's good for our plants. Hi, Roat, how are you? Eric says he's been growing organic for over 12 years. And that's the way to go. I'm really hoping to be able to get myself to a point one day where I can grow even more of my own food and be successful with it, because I know it would be so much healthier for me. Melinda says, yes, Florida has sandy soils. That's why she uses raised gardens. Yeah, I feel like you would kind of have to for it to be successful, although the drainage would be great, but it's not really conducive to growing. Rochelle, yes, big agriculture kills everything. I'm going to submit a suggestion to our waste management. Rochelle, where do you live? I think a lot of us should be doing that. Catherine says there were no worms in that garden that was, I'm thinking that you're saying that was rototilled for 3 years. Exactly, because you kill off all the beneficial stuff that the worms can use and that the plants can use. London Worm says, my father's side are farmers. Everything that came off the land went back to the land in one form or another. They were organic before it was a thing. But that's awesome. I wish everybody could do that and be doing that. Rochelle's in Southern California. I feel like California would be pretty progressive with trying to implement a lot of those things. They're definitely going green in a lot of other ways much quicker than the rest of the country. Mike says we till under the plant after harvest. Yeah, I can see that, and the good thing about that is if you do till it after harvest, it does have, you know, a full season before you're going to be planting back into it. We just have to be careful. I am not perfect. I don't use a tiller, but I do kind of mix up my beds, rake them up, and I really don't think I should be. Mike says California is trying to stop cow farts. They're much too busy. Yeah, I heard something about how they were concerned about the methane that's put off by the cows. That's hysterical, but there's other things that could be very helpful in reducing some of the problems that we have in our ecosystem, for sure. I think Mickey's getting back to working out. Mike's making fun of her because she's got very slender arms. Yes, Eric, tilling does have its place. We just have to be careful. London Worms and Gardens, I was gifted a shredded tree. The wood chips went to the allotment. Yes, I'm hoping to see more about your allotment this year. That's like the whole back to Eden gardening method, I think, where you kind of use a wood chip mulch as opposed to constantly digging, and you plant just in that mulch layer. It's much healthier. Well, good night, Nick. Thanks for stopping by. I love you too. I will see you on Thursday. Catherine says, don't till, just chop and drop. I like it. Danelle says, there are so many regulations on the use of animal manures, it makes it hard for even organic producers to use it. And that is true. You're right. And that's why it's not just a one level system to fix it. But if we start implementing some of these things, hopefully over time it will get even better. Manuel says, I wonder why college kids and colleges aren't big on composting and vermicomposting. Down at University of North Carolina, I'm sorry, NC State, North Carolina State, where I was at the vermiculture conference, they're like a completely waste-free campus. It's awesome. They compost, they use only compostable, you know, silverware and plateware, and it was incredible to see all the things they have in place. They have these big recycle containers with, you know, like 3 different compartments, like one for food waste, one for paper waste, one for glass. It was very, very cool. I think they need to do that more, and I think nursing homes, hospitals, like you said, schools, so many places could benefit from it. London Worm says it's unreal the amount of worms that the mulch, I think you're saying, attracted. I'm not surprised. You know, if you give them a decaying layer, you know, they're gonna come to it, because that's where especially these composting worms live and thrive. London worms, exactly. The plant is to build up on the clay soil rather than dig it. Right, and if we constantly keep putting layers of our own, you know, leaves, garden waste, things like that, and they decompose into the garden, the soil will fix itself. We don't need to be tilling constantly in order for it to work. Manual, most colleges should be waste-free because they are also smoke-free. Exactly. There's so many reasons why being waste-free would be another great next step for them to take. Precision Angling, thank you for stopping by. Derek, it's okay. It's 1:20 where you live. I'm glad you enjoy the channel. I hope you have a good night. I believe Derek said he's in France. Get some sleep. London Worms and Gardens says, I wish more schools and colleges were like that. I suggested to an architect that it should be a part of the building regulations. Every new building must have built-in compost and worm bins. I completely agree. 100%. I think I said it before, but working in a hospital, I see so much food go into the trash. You know, people are in the hospital, they're sick. If they don't order food, we end up sending them a house tray. They don't eat the house tray, the entire thing gets chucked in the garbage. You know, I see whole bananas, whole apples, full plates of, you know, whatever, meatloaf, spaghetti. But there's so many different ways that we could manage that instead of throwing it into the garbage. Ron says, when I was a kid, the garbage was collected for farms, for pig farms, he says, but the rest of the trash was burned in barrels at home. But now we know there's so many other things we can do with that as well. But that's another thing. Pigs, you know, there's a huge industry for, you know, pork products, and we could feed them off of our own food scraps. They eat just about anything, so I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I think that we're on the right path to at least start to figure out what we can do. Ron, I didn't say hello to you. I just answered your question, but it's welcome. I haven't seen you hop in here. Hi, Grant. Thank you for stopping by. I know you're at your son's basketball game. Oh, that means I can talk bad about him because he can't hear. No, Grant's been putting out some great content. Any of you who are enjoying the worm systems and everything, definitely go check out Grant. He has one of the new Wormy bag mammoths, and he's got European night crawlers, African night crawlers, and red wigglers. The blue worm bin. Hi, Larry. How are you? London Worm says, as kids, we collected the neighbor's scraps in buckets for the pigs. Yeah, I wish we could do more of that again. And we can, but we all have to try to do our part, take some first steps. Oh, you're welcome, Camille. Welcome. Nightcrawler composting. Matt, how are you doing? Manuel says, I saw a documentary from Monroe Correctional in Washington, and it has a huge vermicomposting program for prisoners. That's really cool. I actually heard something similar here in Maryland, that they do that at some of our prisons, like, I guess as part of trying to help some of the inmates become, you know, active members in the society. They teach them composting and gardening. I think it's also kind of a therapeutic thing. I like that a lot. Mickey saying hello to everyone. Roat saying hi to London Worms. And London Worms says there's actually a food recycling plant here that's a pig farm. Food scraps collected and fed to the pigs on a small urban farm. It makes so much sense. Absolutely. Absolutely. I wish I had something like that local to me. I really need to reach out to more places around me and see if I could, in some way, help them reduce some of their waste. Good to hear it, Matt. I'm happy to hear it. Ron says, we had two 30-gallon galvanized cans with lids. Two guys with a side truck would exchange them for other cans periodically. And that makes sense. To me, that's exactly what we need more of. And Larry says, yep, and then vermicompost the pig poop. That's exactly right. It can be this perfect cycle if we can just get more people to understand how beneficial it is. That's why I'm trying to do some more side-by-side experiments with growing some plants to show people just what the difference is, because I don't think people have a full appreciation for how much healthier the plants grow with the compost and how you can grow with that as your only fertilizer. And people don't believe it until they see it. Matt says, I'm doing something really dumb that I just recorded. I dumped a Wormy bag mini just to explore. I don't think that's dumb, Matt. It's probably pretty cool to see kind of all the layers in there. I'll actually be interested to see that. Larry says you can also use the bugs. Yep. Everything in the worm bin has its place and can be helpful, and everything on farms can be used in another way. You know, at least all of the organic things. Danelle has been trying to get our hospital cafeteria to let me have scraps. So far, coffee grounds is the best I can do. Still working on them. Yeah, I haven't actually approached the cafeteria at my hospital, but I have been known to yank bananas off trays that are going to be sent down to the garbage. Manuel said he didn't even know about composting until you watched a Peppa Pig episode. I think that's like a child's cartoon, if I remember correctly. But see, if we don't hear about it, I didn't know at all about vermicomposting. I mean, I'd heard about composting piles, but I didn't know anything about vermicomposting until I started researching organic gardening. So if it was a foreign concept to me as well. Catherine says coffee grounds are a start, and they are. My local Starbucks will give me like 5-gallon bags. They're super, super heavy, and you know, that's a big thing. You know, I take a few bags from them every month, so every little bit adds up. Pasu says, have you played around with waxworms? No, I am honestly not familiar with waxworms. I mean, I've heard of them, but I don't really know what they are or how you can raise them or anything like that. Sorry, I was really thirsty. I haven't filmed an update on it recently, but I thought I would show you guys. This is the oxalis plant that I'm growing with worm castings, and yet again, it's going to end up flowering for me. I actually have two. I can get the other one, two that look like they're about to flower. And right now it's at night, so they're a little bit droopy. They do that at night when they're not in the sunlight. But this is the one with castings. They were started identically. And let me grab this other one. This is the one without. Not nearly as many flowers to it, and they're just not quite as perky. It still looks fine, but I definitely see a difference, and I only used a few tablespoons of compost mixed in with some coconut coir and peat moss. Thank you, Mickey. I think they're really pretty too. The cafeteria won't give me scraps. They said it's against policy, but Starbucks does give me grounds. And I've had the same question. I've asked my grocery store, and it's against their policy to give away scraps too. And I think it might have something to do with if you were taking outdated food and then you ate it. I'm sorry, I can't get comfortable. And you ate it and got sick. I guess they might be concerned about you suing. But they need to be able to come up with something that you can sign, you know, some sort of paper saying you're not going to eat it, or you're not going to hold them responsible if you get sick and eat it. There's ways to get around that. I wish it was easier to do, though. Ron says, don't waxworms have legs like caterpillars? I'm not sure. Good night, London Worms. Thank you for stopping by. I'll be checking up on your video here shortly. Okay. Did anybody see my recent videos with the sweet potatoes? They've been taking so long to break down, but I was like totally shocked. It was really, really cool to see them loaded down with the worms this week. The blue worm bin. Take portable grinder and blend it all together before removing the scraps. Are you saying like try to do that with like a grocery store or something? Catherine says, yes, I saw it. What a worm ball. I know, it was fun. Rochelle says, I'm so jealous. Mine disappeared. Then when I found it, it was wilted. I bet you, I'm thinking you're talking about your shamrock, your oxalis. I'm sure you could bring it back. Unless it's like completely dried out. Give it a shot. Thanks, Matt. I thought it was pretty cool as well. The simple things that entertain us. Yes. Us worm people are not hard to please. Although I'm still pretty disappointed with how the side-by-side reproduction experiment is going. Lilia and Grant and Wayne are also running that experiment, and they all seem to be getting lots of cocoons and babies, and I've only spotted one wisp in the red wiggler bin. I'm hoping to film that update in the next day or two, but it's been frustrating for me. Larry, you're right. If you blend all the scraps together, then the grocery store will know you're not eating garbage soup. Right, and then you can take it home and, you know, store it in buckets or something and then throw it in the worm bin. That might be a way to convince them to offload some of their scraps. Have you used barley that's used for beer to feed to worms? No, but I've heard that some people do use like the hops, the waste from brewing in small amounts in their bins, and it's relatively successful. Matt, I'm not sure if it's temperature difference that's giving me trouble. I think part of it is that I started it completely sterile. I've added since then a few things, but I started it strictly with, I think, shredded cardboard and eggshell. I think that was it. Maybe a little bit of coffee grounds, but since I didn't start with like a living bedding or some existing compost, I think it's taking longer to kind of pick up. But I've added some more stuff along the way. I'm hoping it will pick up. I don't think it's necessarily not being successful. I just think the bin needs to build up some microbial activity for the worms really to get going. Larry says beer waste stinks. Danelle says oxalis grow by rhizomes. Unpot them and give them a little soak and I'll bet they come back. I didn't know that. That's awesome. Is that how people, like, I heard that people can like split their plants, and I'm afraid to dig around in there, but that you can just split a piece off and it'll regrow and you could like grow it for gifts or something. Melinda says now she's fed her worms moldy sweet potatoes. Yeah, they seem to really like the sweet potatoes from my experience so far. Ron says if you use old hops, get ready to hold your breath because they stink. I've never smelled the waste, so I can't really speak to that, but I guess if you're brave, go for it. Manuel says I'm going to grind up bird seeds to feed to the worms to mix things up. I guess that's fine if you feel the need to, but you could feed the birds and then just use your other waste in the worm bin. Somebody commented recently that they felt like I was getting away from my initial kind of goal to do things organically because I've bought some things to supplement in my worm bin. And I do buy things. A lot of it's for demonstration purposes, and some of it's just things that I want in my soil, or like the neem cake that I like to kind of keep down the pest numbers. So I try to encourage people, and I don't want people to think that they have to buy these things that I use. To just use what you have, because the worms will do just fine that way. Let's see. Matt says Yeah, you're probably right about starting sterile. Did they try to run on you when you started that way? No, they didn't try to run on me at all. I've started a lot of my bins relatively sterile, and they're fine. Would coffee work also? Mickey, do you mean like the coffee grounds in the worm bin? I might have missed what you're asking about. Because I put coffee grinds in my worm bin all the time. I brew a pot of coffee every single day. All of those grounds go into the worm bin. And then, like I said, I pick up big bags of used grounds from Starbucks. Good night, Matt. Ron says his compost has little brown mites. I go through phases where I have mites, I don't have mites. I feel like sometimes we overcomplicate it and overthink it, but if you give it some time, usually the numbers even out. It's not a big deal. Pasta said, I just took out about 60 pounds of rotten fruit from the car and I'm about to blend it up. Ooh. That's a lot of food to be blending up. Could you just chop it? You're gonna kill your blender doing that. Hi Lilia, how are you? I'm glad you could make it as well. I've got like 5 or 6 of your videos to catch up on. I'm excited to check the Goldilocks bins. Coffee grounds are also good for mulch as well as if you have an overabundance, Catherine says. That's a good point. I've never thought about that as mulch, but it makes sense. Hi Janet, how are you? Welcome. Larry did say that used coffee grounds can negatively affect germination. But if your garden, Larry, if you're putting your plants in, you've already grown them or, you know, started them before you plant them, would it be an issue, do you think? Mountain Bushcrafters Alliance. It's okay that you're late. WTF Mike would tell you I was 1 minute late getting started. He's going to hold me to that. Make sure I don't forget. Archeromasius. I have outdoor bins and my problem is not mites, it's ants. Yeah, I hear that some people do have issues with ants. I'm not overly familiar with the best way to control that, but I would wonder if it got really wet if they would move on, because they're not going to be able to survive if it's overly wet. Melinda, who are you asking about making a worm picture? Lenora, we had some freezing temperatures here in Southern California recently, and some of my outdoor succulents froze and turned to mush. I tossed some in the worm bin and they loved it. See, that's what's nice, is that we can have things that go wrong or die and we can use them again. Larry says about using coffee in the garden as a mulch. He hasn't personally had issues with plants that are already grown, but some people do. Guess it's something to keep in mind and maybe just not overdo it. Ron says he keeps a bin in the basement in the winter. If you're me, you keep a bin outside in the winter, although this year was the first year, but I've been surprised. They so far have seemed to be making it and actually laying cocoons, and there's babies in there, so that's pretty cool. Manuel says, I sometimes see tiny brown stones in my bin. Is that normal? Like your outdoor bin or your indoor bin, could they be mites? Because mites can be very rotund, like little tiny balls in appearance, but I'm not sure. Lilia, you wish you had the talent for what? We know you're ultra talented with the worms. Danelle says, I'm wanting to make up a dry mix, waiting for the ingredients to arrive. Do you have certain ratios that you suggest? You know, I use my homemade dry mix, which was really just my own attempt at trying to control some pests and provide grit for the worms. I don't really use a ratio per se. I just dump a little of this, a little of that, and I use the diatomaceous earth, kelp meal, neem cake, and either eggshell or oyster shell, whatever I have most of. But I mean, I think I would err more on the side of the grit source, so the eggshell or the oyster shell, and then a little bit more of the others. But it really could work any way you want to, and you can play with it. Pasu says, what is the difference between a mite and a springtail? So some mites are small and they don't move, and they just look like little tiny either white or reddish brown balls that are all over your banana peels or inside your avocado shells. But then there's also mites that run really, really fast, and they look like tiny spiders. And none of them are really harmful in small numbers. Some people say that it's an indication of a little bit of an acidity problem, so use a little bit more buffer. But like I said, my numbers wax and wane kind of regardless of what I do. Also, just keeping a nice thick layer of dry bedding on the surface of your bin will help as well. Rochelle says, I'm trying to get the nerve to go down to a restaurant and seek of eggshells, but I don't eat eggs and I refuse to buy oyster shell, and there's so many wasted eggshells. Yeah, go to a bakery, go to a place that does breakfast. That's absolutely a great way to source some eggshells. Oh, Lilia, to make the worm picture in your last video. Yeah, I use different apps on my phone to get little thumbnail pictures or, things like that. Some of them I take myself and some of them I don't. Like the thumbnail for this video was just something I got off of, I think, Unsplash. Danelle says it's her favorite way to cook. Rochelle says, if you could set the bin in a larger pan with water in the bottom, they generally won't cross. I had to do that for cat food sometimes. Oh, to keep the ants out. That's really smart. I didn't even think about that. Although now that you say it, I think I heard somebody one time had a worm factory outside, and they placed each of the feet inside like a little bowl of water, and it prevented any more ants from making their way in. Pasu says, go to a sushi restaurant for oyster shells. That's a good idea. Or, I live in Maryland. We have tons of seafood restaurants, especially in the summer. I bet I could get a ton of shells if I wanted to. Yeah, Ron says the mites are extremely small and they almost look like dust, and springtails are white. They're much bigger, which is right. I forgot to finish answering that question. Springtails, you'll see in a lot of my videos, it almost looks like the eggshell sprinkled across the surface, but it's actually these tiny little, they're either white or grayish bugs, but there's different species of them, and some of them, if you get close to them, they'll kind of spring and jump. That's why they're called springtails, and it's, I guess, kind of a defense mechanism or a safety mechanism for them in the wild. Pasu says mine are tiny and pink. They're probably like a reddish mite. Is oyster shell flour the same as what you use in your dry mix? Actually, I have my oyster shell sitting on the table over here. I think it is. Mine doesn't even say flour, so I think it's just ground up oyster shell. I don't see why it wouldn't be. It's still going to have that grit aspect to it, which will be very beneficial. But yeah, I think oyster shell flour or just pulverized oyster shell, whatever it says on the box, I'm sure it's just fine. I'm thinking of planting my pothos this week, or repotting them. The ones that I got that I'm gonna do with my castings versus Tiffany's castings that she sent me. And I'm also going to repot my, what do you call it? The succulents that I got and use castings on half of them and not on the other half. So we'll see how that goes. Lilia says, I sprinkle a nice amount of diatomaceous earth around my bins that have ants and they disappear in a day. In the bin, I keep it extra wet because ants don't like water. Yeah, and I've actually used diatomaceous earth by my back door. For some reason, by my back door, sometimes in the summer or the spring, really, we'll have ants come in. And if I just do a small little line of dusted diatomaceous earth by the back door, they, like she said, they disappear. Excuse me. When I blend strawberries, they form moving rafts. I don't know if I understand what you're saying. Bye, Manuel. Thank you for stopping by. All right, let me see here. Make sure I'm caught up. So do any of you source your scraps from various places? I mean, I source mine mainly from friends right now, so I'd love to hear any other places that you've had success sourcing things. So I use friends, I use Starbucks, and at this point that's primarily it. I use an organic drain cleaner. Drain flies are tough, and I've had 2 outbreaks since I've started composting, and the one was relatively recently, and I'm still spotting a few, but I think most of them are gone. I'll try to find the link, and I'll put it in the description below when this goes up on replay. It's like a blue-colored organic drain cleaner, and you have to put it like in all of your drains and let it sit as long as possible. Because even if they come in some other way, they're going to find their way to those damp drains, and that's where they reproduce, and then you've got a problem on your hands. But so far, the first time I had this happen, that drain cleaner worked amazing, and that's why I want to try to keep using the organic method. So that's what I do. Lilia says, I do Starbucks, neighbors, friends, and family. Plus, I have a ton of my own waste. Yeah, Lily, I know you have a huge family. It's awesome that you're able to have so many scraps. How do you freeze all of them if you have such a big family? Because I don't even always have room in my freezer for all of my scraps. Although I feel like mine, it's feast or famine. I've got a ton of scraps, or I'm really low on scraps, kind of scrounging for whatever I can find. Rochelle says, surprisingly, they do sometimes learn to walk on water. I think you're talking about ants. I found this channel. I want to say it was somebody in one of my live streams one time told me to check out Ants Canada. It's one word, and this guy just raises like ants and beetles and things like that as pets. And his ants, I've seen in some of his videos, walk across water. But his channel is huge, and he has some really, really cool kind of storylines. He makes it a lot of fun. You can always check him out, too. Lilia says, I have 2 freezers, and both of them are full. Amber's Amusement. Hello, welcome. I'm still too new to source scraps. I do have a freezer drawer full of scraps for when my population starts expanding. And that's what's so cool, is that right now, I did the same thing when I started. I wanted to save everything, and I didn't even have enough room. So I saved as much as I could, and I still had to toss some of it outside, some of it in the garbage. I cringe thinking about that now, but they catch up really fast. That's a good point. That's a good point, Larry. That's because that's also how you make fruit fly traps, right? You put a drop of dish soap in it, and that will suck the flies down into the liquid when they go into your traps. Ron says we have an upright freezer in the garage. I've actually kept my eyes open over the last year on like the Facebook Marketplace trying to see if I could find like somebody's old chest freezer that they're trying to give away relatively cheap. But I've been able to do fine without it, and that's just going to use more electricity, so I'm kind of having mixed feelings about buying one. All right. Melinda says I freeze my scraps, but I also have 6 hens and 2 outside composters. So your food probably doesn't last that long before you pull it out and throw it into the bins. And I guess your outside composters, you don't really care about freezing the scraps first. For those of you who are newer to the worm composting, a lot of us freeze our scraps first to prevent any sort of fruit flies from hatching. The issue is that a lot of our fruit scraps and even vegetable scraps have like larvae or eggs laid in their skins. So if we don't, freeze first, then some of those could potentially hatch in your bin and create a problem. Oh, good night, Larry. Thank you so much for stopping by. I think I have Larry's channel linked below. Actually, I know I do, because I also have his email listing, so you can go and sign up if you're interested in learning more. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought. Somebody tell me what I was saying. The hens eat anything extra that you can't freeze or go into the composter. Oh yeah, I was talking about getting the freezer. I really am conflicted about it, but since I've done okay without it this long, I think I'm going to try not to. Try to keep the electric bill down. My electric bill is outrageous. I have a lot of fruit flies in my outside setup, but none inside. And that's the awesome thing, is that you can have them outside and it's not a problem. A lot of people even try to attract the black soldier fly to their bins, because then they get the black soldier fly larva, which can like devour meat and everything apparently, like ultra quick, like in a day, in a couple of hours sometimes. I don't know if I could do well with those larvae. They're huge, but still interesting. Danelle says, your hens are not happy about sharing scraps with your worms. Oh, I'm sure they'll get over it. I guess maybe one day your hens can eat some of your worms. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could happen. Everyone should have chickens, says Melinda. But I hear chickens stink really bad. That's the problem. And I mean, how much work are they, to be honest? I don't think... Excuse me. I haven't had coffee, guys. I'm sorry. I would think that the chickens would be a lot of work, and you would need a lot of space, and they're noisy and stinky. Ron says, black soldier flies are great for disposing of bodies. Don't ask. Alright, Ron, I won't ask. But I hear that a lot of composting critters can devour bodies. There's some funny little cartoons to that effect. You don't want to mess with a worm farmer, right? Has anyone gone to their local restaurant or bakery for eggshells and scraps? I didn't mean to do that, but lost confidence after my daughter turned me down about asking the chefs at her work. You know, I need to be better about it. I have asked my grocery store one time and they basically outright told me no. But I don't think it's anything we should be like embarrassed to ask about. Absolutely, go ask. You know, the worst they can say is no. Just ask to speak to a manager. Let them know that you compost, organic waste to grow plants. And you wanted to know if you could take some, past date produce off their hands that they're going to get rid of. Or past due eggs that they're going to get rid of that you could use the shells for. I mean, if you get, some sort of form or a waiver or write up your own telling them that you're not going to hold them accountable if you would do something stupid and eat past due food, I don't see why they shouldn't. I mean, I'm sure there's policies, but we can maybe work beyond that. dumpster diving. Lilia, are you into the dumpster diving? I would not take you as that type of person. Just go to a farmer's market 5 minutes before closing. That's a great idea. I never even thought about a farmer's market. That would be an excellent way to source some scraps. Rochelle says, I have a friend with an amazing garden and she simply digs a hole in the yard, puts in the worms, and revisits when it's time to plant. And a lot of people will do like the buried, like worm buckets, and they have a lot of success with just throwing scraps in there. It attracts native worms, or they can put some of their own worms in there, and then the worms come in, they eat, they go back out, and then they spread the goodness throughout your garden. Arturo Marcius, I get my cardboard at Costco. I get most of mine via Amazon deliveries. If Janet's still in here, I'm sorry. Pasu says, that's where I get my mushrooms for my worms. I'm guessing you're saying at the farmer's market. I did not even think about that. Lilia says, if all else fails, why not? I don't, but it's a thought about the dumpster diving. I don't do it either. I know some people that have done it before for various things. I actually saw some sort of video about people who went into dumpsters in New York City at the end of the day, and they were pulling out all of this bread that hadn't been eaten, and all of this, you know, these fruits, this fruit cocktail, and there was even food waste that was put out from a grocery store, and there was yogurt that wasn't even past date. And they basically were trying to make a point that they were able to feed themselves from dumpster diving. I would not be eating food that was coming out of a dumpster, but I think it was more for the effect than, you know, the fact that they were actually going to eat the food. But, you know, if all of that food that actually is still good, you know, if it could be donated to food kitchens or it could be used in composting, wouldn't that feel a lot better than walking by a dumpster and seeing nothing but food? I'm going to wrap it up in a few minutes here, guys. Seems like our numbers are dwindling, but I want to know any more questions you have. I'll hang on for a little bit longer. Danelle says, is it really true that ANCs are the best at chowing through cardboard? Hoping to get more worms soon and wondering about trying another variety. I've only done red wigglers. I found that the African night crawlers and the European night crawlers are great at composting the carbon sources. I think Lilia has had similar experiences. I don't know if there's scientific data on that, but from my experience, they fly through the carbon sources faster than any of the other worms that I have. I will say that the African night crawlers and the European night crawlers are a little bit more difficult to raise. They're definitely doable, but a little bit more difficult to raise. Ron says, go dumpster fishing. You stay cleaner if you don't go inside. I've seen a few of those videos and wonder if some of that stuff is for real. I don't know, but I still think the message resonates. Shawl, you're a little bit late. I'm getting ready to wrap up here soon. I'm sorry. How are you doing? Any questions for me before I log off here? Catherine at My Hillside Garden says, you all have been very instrumental in helping to keep me company this evening, and I have made good progress in my grow room to get ready for my urban worm bag. Oh, you're going to set it up soon. That's awesome. Pasu, are potworms a type of earthworm or nematode? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. They're not an earthworm. I'm pretty certain they're not an earthworm, but I'm not sure if they're a nematode either. It's definitely something we'll have to look into. I'll see if I can find the answer to that for you. Shawl says it's 3 o'clock a.m. on Wednesday. Where do you live, Shaw? I can't remember. I know we talked not that long ago on Facebook, but I can't remember where you said you live. Lilia says, trash day, make the rounds in your neighborhood. Just trying to think outside the box. I don't do that either. No, but I've known plenty of people that have gotten good fines doing that, so why not? I think the ticket is going to a smaller business, which is who we should be supporting anyway. No, I agree 100%. Some of the mom and pop shops, the local pizza places, you know, Italian restaurants, some of these smaller, like family-owned places, I think they'd be much quicker to agree to giving you some waste. David, thank you so much. I got a couple pounds of European night crawlers from you, and I am so pleased. Thank you so much. Oh gosh, David, I'm glad. They showed up in good condition. Shawl, Israel. Yes, I forgot. I'm sorry. 3 a.m. What are you doing up at 3 a.m.? Stingray Steve. Got night crawlers? I really prefer sandworms. By sandworms, do you mean like earthworms and composting worms or something else? Catherine says you could also try going at a down time to a smaller business and explaining why you're there and asking for tossaways. Yeah, I think that's a big thing too, how you approach it, what time you approach it, who you speak with. If you spend the time to explain to them what you're using it for, I think they might be more apt to give it to you. Stingray Steve says ocean worms. I should have guessed by your name. What type of worms are in the ocean and what is their benefit to us? I'm just not familiar. I'm not trying to be condescending in any way. What's in the scraps? Oops, speak and text. I'm not sure what you're saying, Rochelle. Pasu, farmers don't want to haul trash home when a person could use it instead for those looking to go to a farmer's market. Yeah, and that's a good point. I never had thought about that, but I really think that's a good point. Stingray Steve says dig out the worms during low tide. They're bloodworms and they bite. Do fish, like, are they good as a bait worm? I don't think I'd want to source a worm just because they bite. Well, for bait, why not? Have to look into that a little bit. If you guys haven't already and you wouldn't mind going over and clicking the like button for me, I would appreciate it. I will do just a little bit of some announcements and kind of house cleaning type stuff. I feel like my comments on my videos have been dwindling lately. I'm getting more views but less comments. So if you guys go over and check my videos out, I don't care if you even just say a hello in the comments, just to let me know that you watched it. I'm trying to figure out the YouTube algorithm. It's sometimes confusing to know exactly who's seeing my content, who's watching it in its entirety. Always, anytime you go and watch videos, click the like button for the person you're watching the video for. It helps other people find it. It shows them your support. I don't know about any of these other channels in here, but I know Catherine, Lilia, Matt at Nightcrawler Composting, a lot of these people have channels, and I'm sure if they're anything like me, seeing a comment when you wake up in the morning, seeing those likes on your videos, it's kind of encouraging to keep us going. My Hillside Garden, Catherine says, I usually go to visit farmers markets at the end of the day. The deals are great, and you can ask them for the beet tops that people didn't want and the corn husks. That's really, really smart. I'm going to have to look into that, especially now that spring and summer are coming. Amber's Amusement says, I'll make sure to leave a comment from now on. Are you monetized? Yes, I am monetized, but your comment doesn't cost you anything. It's only the fact that there's might be a little bit of an ad at the beginning of your video. But I'm trying to follow the YouTube standards and make sure I disclose the fact that I use Amazon affiliate links for some of the products that are in my descriptions. Um, YouTube's cracking down a little bit. They want to make sure that the channels are genuine and follow along with the guidelines and the message that they want to have. So I do work really hard to try to make sure that I'm living up to those standards and that you guys know upfront exactly who I am, what I'm doing, um, and what to expect from me. So comment for people, like on their videos, subscribe if it's something that's interesting to you. Try to avoid asking people to sub for sub. That has been an issue lately. They've closed people's channels down. They've taken away subscribers from them because they've asked for subs. So you don't want to ask people to subscribe to you like in a live stream. Of course, if you're filming your own video, you can say, please subscribe. You know, just like I always say, you know, subscribe if you'd like some more content from me. But that's not an issue. It's more if you hop into these live streams and you go and you sub to everybody in the live stream and ask them to sub back to you. That's not considered genuine. So you just need to be careful. We want this community to continue to grow, and we don't want anybody to be getting strikes against them on their YouTube accounts for silly things like that. Let's see. Stingray Steve. I fell behind. Sorry, guys. I was trying to get some of those things out before I forgot. Stingray Steve says, no saltwater worms in the Gulf. It's weird. Interesting. Catherine says, Emily, I couldn't agree with you more about the thumbs up and let the video run. If you just listen to the end, it truly helps. And that's true too. We need to get watch time. You know, in order for a channel to get monetized, for more people to find it, you need to have a lot of watch time. So if you're trying to support a channel, do your best if you can to watch till the end. If you leave a comment, that's huge. If you like the video, that's huge. You know, just do what you can because it is a really, really big help to people. And I personally try to support mainly smaller channels because, you know, we're the people, you know, at the bottom trying to grind it out and spread the word on some smaller things. And so I feel like it's fun. It's sort of like supporting small business. I like to support the smaller channels, and I do watch some larger channels, but just be sure to think about all of that. Amber says she's just curious about me being monetized. Yes, I am monetized. I will tell you, it's definitely not breaking the bank, but it's okay. Little bit of money is always helpful. Not necessary, but I do appreciate that, you know, people are watching the ads because that does give me a little bit of money. Amber says, I do forget to comment sometimes. Ron says, YouTube hates channels with 1 million bot viewers. Exactly. We want real viewers. I want people who I'm actually going to be able to reach and teach and interact with. If it's a bot just coming in, clicking like, or going and subscribing to 100 channels, that's not doing me any good. I want the interaction and to be able to know what people are getting value out of so I can continue to share more of what people are enjoying. Thank you, Rochelle. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you have an excellent night. Linda, hi Emily. Linda Bush from New Zealand. Love your channel, new to worm farming. And you have one of Tom's Wormy minis. Oh, awesome, Linda. I hope you can watch my series on the Wormy bag, and I also have the Wormy bag Max. I've liked them very much. I'm sorry I'm going to be wrapping up here shortly, but I hope you can go back and watch some of this if you would like, or check out some of my previous live streams. This one was totally, didn't really have any agenda. It was just more for fun. Farmall's check was $114. I think you're saying for monetization. Yeah, it doesn't really have to be a huge channel. I think it looks like my first month is going to be somewhere around $60. And I'm not saying that to be braggy or anything like that, but just to let people know. because I'm not trying to hide anything. But that's why I decided to add some ads, because, all right, so $60, all right, that's a tank or two of gas, and I spend a lot of time working on the worm, so it feels like a little bit of something's coming back to me, so I can do more giveaways, things like that. You guys know I love to do giveaways. David says, my grandson and I have learned so much from your videos. We want to thank you so much, and we'll be ordering some African night crawlers next week. Thank you so much. Keep all the good videos up. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, David. Be sure to look out for your order. It's a good time of year. It's starting to warm up a little bit so the worms can safely travel. Amber, exactly. Every little bit counts and helps. Thanks for stopping by, Stingray Steve. I appreciate it very much. Amber, for some reason my comments don't show in live feeds, so I'm commenting but never get the response. Tonight was successful though. Thank you for all of your content, Emily. Amber, I've heard a few people have had that problem lately, and I'm so sorry if I've missed your comments in previous live streams, but some people, they're not able to comment in certain live streams for some reason, and it's like they don't have any strikes on their account, so it's an unusual thing. So God bless you as well, Steve. It's interesting. I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm glad it worked tonight. We were able to chat a little bit. The Wyatt Life. Hey, what's up? Hi, Wyatt. I don't think I've had you in here before. Are you a worm composter? I don't know if Wyatt left us, but I think I'm going to call it a night, guys. We were live for, I don't know, an hour and almost 15 minutes. Wyatt says, yes, but we moved to a new house, so I haven't started up a new bin yet. Well, Wyatt, I hope you have checked out my channel. If it's something that you're enjoying, please subscribe, follow me, and you can see some of the systems I have. I look forward to seeing some of your content if you put some videos out for us. So I hope you guys have an excellent night. I'm going to end it now. Thank you all for stopping by. Please check out the description below. Tons of information, products I use. I will be sure to add that organic drain cleaner that I use as well. And hopefully we will schedule a new stream for sometime next month. So I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Amber, Michelle, Rochelle, Melinda, Wyatt Life, Stingray Steve, all of you that are still here. I really, really appreciate it. So hope you guys